Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the OneFire B2B Podcast where we take business owners, CEOs, people who manage and support salespeople. 6 questions, 9 minutes, because the best know when to be concise and when to be done. Here we go. Question number 1 in a couple sentences. Who are you and what do you do?
I'm Jennifer Eggers, and I run a company called LeaderShift Insights. We work with leaders and organizations that are facing disruption to improve their capacity to adapt so they can come back stronger and more effective from disruption.
Love it. Question number 2. What's the best thing about working with businesses?
Well, businesses are made of people. So to increase organizational resilience, we teach leaders how to be more resilient, and that changes lives.
That does change lives. Being more resilient changes lives. Completely agree. Question number 3. What do you find most challenging about getting in front of decision makers?
Oh gosh, I think that would have to be figuring out what would resonate with them and how to add value immediately, even in the sales call.
Yep. How to add value immediately is very important. Question number 4. What other top professionals in the B2B space that you think would be a great guest for the OneFire B2B podcast?
There are 2 people you've got to talk to. So the first is Teresa French. She's an amazing sales guru, and she knows more than anybody I know about the topic of sales. She's been an invaluable help to me, and she would be a great guest for you. And then the other one is Gina Carr, and I think she's incredibly relevant right now because she teaches people how to connect with clients on video when you can't be there in person. And given our situation today, I think that's incredibly relevant, and she would also be a great guest.
It is very relevant now. I think that after this whole coronavirus thing, I think live networking is going to start going down even after it recovers and everything. So yeah. That part here. Let's get to question number 5, and you're ahead of schedule because you have 7 minutes and 25 seconds left. So question number 5, give some insight about working with businesses. Go.
Yeah, I think, it just goes back to the number of lives that you can change by making life in corporate America better. Astounds me about working with businesses. And that's really why I do what I do. So, when we work with organizations, we teach a bit of individual resilience because you have to learn to be a resilient leader first. But then we take the exact framework, and I think the coolest thing in my research and what I've learned about building resilience is that the characteristics of resilient people and resilient organizations are exactly the same. And so we have a framework that we teach individuals, and we can turn around and teach it to a company. And so the language changes a bit. Things like, your personal values or your faith might turn into your corporate mission or your organizational principles or whatever that is for the organization, but it's the same basic content. And so I think to me, that's been the biggest insight for me is how impactful that is. I'll give you a quick example. We had a client we did our resilience program with not long ago, and I called the CEO 3-4 weeks afterwards, and they had really done a great job of implementing this resilience framework. They applied it to every area of their business. They brought, their leaders in, and I called them 3 weeks later and I said, what's changed? And in the side of me, there's always that fear that, gosh, what if nothing's changed? What am I going to do? And he said, Jennifer, our entire company has more courage because 15 people went through and built this framework. And to me, that was just an incredibly powerful testament. And frankly, not just a testimonial, but it's the work they did, because this stuff isn't easy and resilience requires preparation.
It is. So let me ask you a quick question real quick. Sure. So for the podcast here. So yeah. How could someone right now build some resilience before they need it?
I think the first thing is really to think. So when we think about resilience, it's really 3 things. So one is your mindset. One is the choices you make. And the underlying bedrock of those 2 things are your core beliefs. And so some people might think of that as your faith. Some people think of it as values. But knowing what those are is the number 1 thing that you can do. Because when you need to stand up in a difficult situation, it's really important to know what you stand on. And that's the number 1 first step that I would tell anybody.
Perfect. Let's get to question number 6. Jennifer, this is the most important question of the podcast. Tell me about your first sale.
It's interesting. As I was thinking about this, I really can't remember the first, but the most meaningful, how about that, was, I went to sell speaking before I really ever thought of myself as a speaker. And so I pitched an idea to a client for a keynote on resilience. And I did it in an email back in 2014, before I had ever written the keynote or really even thought about what I might say. And to my surprise, the client said yes.
Cool.
And so, astounding, but they said yes. I wrote the keynote, ended up delivering it, got a standing ovation. The audience actually rushed the stage, so the next speaker couldn't get out. I couldn't get to the stage. And this launched a workshop. It launched my book, and a business that I'm incredibly passionate about, and again, has allowed us to change a lot of lives. And, all because of that first, just having the courage to just kind of stick my neck out and throw an idea out there that I really wasn't sure if it was going to stick, and they bit. So
wonderful. Love it. Love this.
Great lesson. Great lesson.
I know you said you don't remember your first time. That's okay. You just sell a lot then.
It is probably true. I've been doing this a long time.
There we go. So Jennifer, you now have 3 minutes and 23 seconds left. This is promo time. Ask me a question, talk about the weather, or since the best know when to be concise and when to end, we can end early. All are acceptable options.
What great choices those are. So, the first thing I would say, just to kind of finish the thought, is that I think the best salespeople maybe don't think of themselves as being in sales. And that may be counter to what we believe, but I've never really thought of myself as great at sales. I've thought of myself as really passionate about adding value. So I think that's, a thought. But the other thing, of course, I can't lose the opportunity, though, to, promote my book. We came up with Resilience, It's Not About Bouncing Back last July. My co-author, Cynthia Barlow, and I wrote the book. It came out in July, and it's just been doing great. But in this crazy economic situation we're in, and the times we're in, and all the current events, I can't emphasize enough how important resilience is, and that preparation before you need it, and everything you need to know to do that is in this book. So I can't miss the opportunity to throw that out there. But I also say, plug for this podcast. I was watching a bunch of these this morning, and I've just really enjoyed getting to know you, and the quick format. I wasn't sure about it at the beginning, but I really have enjoyed these podcasts. So I'll throw that out there too.
Well, thank you. I enjoy the quick format. It's great for networking, because a lot of people, when they do podcasts, hey, I want you on my podcast. It's 30 minutes. Fill out this form that's going to take you 5 to 10 minutes to fill out. You'll answer all these questions you're not thinking about there. Then I want you for 30 minutes. Then I want to talk to you afterwards. It becomes a hassle. Here, this whole thing should be done in 30 minutes tops if we talk afterwards.
And I love that it's quick to listen to. You get some great hot tips, and it didn't take a lot of work to prep, so I really enjoyed it, and I actually got to listen to 3 or 4 of them while I was waiting. So I loved it. It was great.
Perfect. Again, you got 1 minute, 26 seconds left. Anything else? Or again, since the best know when to be concise, we can end early.
My question for you maybe is, how did you come up with the short format? I'm just curious.
Really, it came down to laziness, because my coach, I told her that I wanted to do a podcast, for years. She said, great, you got to schedule your first episode in 24 hours. And
my goodness.
I'm following, okay, what do I hate about podcasting? Like, going from that point there, I hate that they give you a ton of homework, and I hate that it's the host speaking for an hour and the guest is window dressing. So I switched both those things out, and here we are.
I love it, and I would say in most of our work, what we've learned is that the first ideas that you get from a client in any brainstorm are usually the ones with the most value. So I usually time box them and cut that stuff off earlier than most, but what we find is we get more value that way anyway. So
we do. You pulled it off. 6 questions, 9 minutes, because the best know when to be concise and when to end it. Say your website for me.
LeaderShiftInsights.com. So www.LeaderShiftInsights.com.
And it's already in the description. You don't need to spell it out. So there we go. Jennifer, thank you so much for being on.
Hey, this was great. Have a great day.
You too. And everyone else watching or listening, make sure you check out more episodes of the OneFire B2B podcast. My name is Bob Clark. You all have a wonderful day.